Have you ever gotten in your truck, your semi, and you weren't building any air pressure? It's kind of a gut-wrenching feeling, but stick around. We're gonna go through some things. Might help you out, all right? Here we are. I'm in the yard here. And when I got hooked up, I put an inverter in the truck. I'll do a video on that as well. You see my Peterbilt right behind me. When I hooked the inverter up, I turned the truck on, wanted to make sure everything worked, and I noticed that I wasn't building any air pressure. So immediately, there's a couple of things that you want to do. First thing is going to be to give it some gas. You know, put the pedal to the metal is what they say. You might have just something stuck, you might have a valve stuck, it may not be that big of a deal, and then boom, you're good. Second thing that you're really going to want to do is you're going to just want to walk around your truck and see if maybe that you've got air leaking somewhere. It's going to be from your air springs, it could be coming from the trailer, could be coming from anywhere. That needs to be the second thing that you do if your air pressure isn't building. And then from there, you can go into checking your dump valves that are actually on your compressor, taking the hoses apart on your compressor to make sure that your compressor is actually pumping air out. So those are a little bit more, the last two options are a little bit more in depth of what you would do. Today, what we're actually going to do is we're going to change an air spring. So I had this situation happen to me. I wasn't building any air pressure. And I just so happened to hear the air. So I climbed underneath the truck and boom, one of my air springs had a couple cracks in it and it was just flowing out. So what I did, I went to the rear end. I actually had a load on my trailer too, 48,000 pounds, and I delivered it this morning. So what I did, I turned the air off to the air springs on the rear. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. I only had about 20 miles. I drove there, delivered the load, and then came back to my yard where I could go ahead and detach from the trailer and get to the air spring that was leaking and get it replaced. Alright, so this is the valve right here that's on the rear end that's going to be directly related to all of your air springs. You're going to want to shut that valve in the down position. It's typically already up and it is bolted. And as you can see what I've done, I just zip tied them together to keep it in that down position while I was driving so I didn't have anything escape on me. Now the actual air spring, now some people might be saying, filthy, what's an airbag, bro? Yeah, we call them airbags. Technically, they're actually air springs, okay? So this is what an air spring looks like right here. I have 4 of them. Some people have more. So the one that is bad, as you can see, is this one right here. Now I actually got 4 of these from Peterbilt this morning, and you can see I actually started working on it a little bit. I took that fitting out. I went to Home Depot to get a cap, so I'm going to cap that. I'm going to get these nuts right here. Okay, take these nuts off. Then I'm going to start the truck. I'm gonna let it build some air pressure. I'm gonna flip that valve up. I'm gonna let it build some air pressure, and I'm gonna pump up these rear 3 to get this one out. Okay, then I'll slide it back, slide the new one in, and reconnect the fitting. We're good to go. So let me show you what I've got here. Oh, these are the neurons. Oh shit. These are the new ones right here. Now, if I were you, I would keep an extra one, always. I have 4. I'm gonna inspect the other 3. Probably won't change them, but I'll have them a spare if I need to. Luckily, I was near home. I was at home doing the inverter when all this happened. So I'm gonna go ahead and crank up on these bolts, get this air spring off, okay? And then I'll show you guys here in just a second what it's gonna look like, and we'll rock and roll, all right? All right, so on this Peterbilt, what we're using, I'm using a 15 millimeter long socket, okay? And I have an impact right here. So most of the time, what you're gonna run into is these bolts are gonna be fairly difficult to break. You know, you may have to put a little degreaser on them, spray them with some WD-40, let it sit for a minute, or whatever you might have. Pry bar, good ratchet, and an impact is really what's gonna be the best for you. I've already got one of them off. I'm gonna show you here right now. So, as you can see there, I've got one out. I got this one loose. It's the air spring is already wiggling on out of there, so it's not gonna be a problem. Now, when I bought the new ones, I also got the hardware that comes with them, so we're gonna have all new hardware that's gonna go into this. I'm planning on getting dirty, because you're gonna get dirty. Just plan on it. All right, so we'll cut back to this here in just a second once I get this out, and we'll show y'all what it looks like. Okay, so as you see what I've done here, I took this brass fitting off that was right there, and I capped it. All right, got the bolts out. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to the truck. We're gonna start the truck. We're going to lift our rear end valve so that air will come to each one of these air springs. We're gonna lift the other 3 air springs up. Okay, when we lift them up, this air spring right here is going to be able to fall right on out, and we'll put the new one in and put all the hardware back in it, okay? Okay, so as you see, we lifted the valve right here. That's gonna give air to the springs, okay? All 3 of the springs are up. You see this one right here is up. And there's our bad boy right there that we're gonna go ahead and take out and replace, okay? It is just that simple. And you can do this for all of them, any of them. If you're on the side of the road and you have your trailer hooked up, that's fine. If this is an emergency situation, that's fine. Get over where, get to safety first, obviously. And go ahead and fix this issue, you know? You probably more than likely will be at a truck stop, or you'll be somewhere where the truck has been turned off. And then you get back in your truck and you're not building any air pressure, so the chances are you're already at a place of safety, which is fantastic. So go ahead, disconnect the air line to the bad bag, cap it off. That's a 1/2 inch that I have. It may not be what suits your truck. Keep a couple of them in your spares. Keep a couple of the air springs with you as spares. Now we're going to go ahead and pop this in the living room, okay? Okay, so there was a bolt underneath. I'll show you guys what that bolt looks like. Right here, it's lots of so I would recommend taking that bolt off first. Just so happen to get lucky. And you can see here, using a 7/8 so happens I've got the truck pumped up right now, right? So I hear a little bit of a leak coming out of this back airbag now. There's a little spot in it. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna change this one out while we're here. We've got everything to do it. And we're gonna inspect all these air springs as well, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look at this bag, this bad bag right here. And this is where you're going to see this bag was old. It was going to go anyway. You can obviously see the wear and the tear on it right here. This is common. You know, this is a very common situation. Very common. So, out with the old and the new. And leak that I found on this wheel. Right there. So we're going to go ahead and replace this one too up here. That's where the old bag was. The new bag is going to go. Okay. So we got the new air spring in. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the bolt on the bottom. That's going to be a 15-2. It's going to be a lock nut that I put on the bottom, okay? And as soon as we finish tightening that one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and change out this one over here that I was talking about. This one on the rear is going to be super simple. It's not anywhere near the hitch, and we won't get near as dirty, but filthy already, so difference doesn't make, right? All right. Okay, so there she is. Final product there. She's all hooked up. She's ready to go. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get that rear. We're gonna do the same exact thing, okay? Okay, so on this rear one, we went ahead and I took the fittings off, right? This fitting off, and I took this fitting off. There's some small parts on the inside of this lawn, so be careful when you take these things off. If you're doing these on the side of the road, maybe have a bag handy with you where you can put smaller parts in your bag and put it in your pocket. You know, I'm on the ground here and it's gravel. You just have to be very careful about where you put things and how you hang on to them. You know, if you were to drop a nut somewhere around here on this gravel, or you're in a parking lot somewhere, you're at a truck stop, you know, it could end up being a disaster for you and look like a crackhead trying to find a nut. So anyway, now we've got this off. I went ahead and put it back together. So I'm gonna put my fitting on here. I'm gonna loosen the bolt that's on the bottom, and then we'll be able to, and then I'm gonna loosen these bolts up here at the top, and then we'll go from there, okay? As you can see, I've got the air supplied to the other 3 airbags. This one right here. Last thing you need is to fix your truck and then go to the hospital. Take it out of your eye. what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the air down. It's going to sit down to the bag, bolts in, tighten it down, put our pin back on. We'll be good to go. Alright, so we got the new bag in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put air to the rear end to all of these air springs. We're going to watch it raise. We're going to fill them up. We're going to check the other two. If we have to change them, then we will, but I don't think that we will. I've already looked at them. But I'm going to let you guys see from this angle the air spring and how it actually, the action of it whenever we supply air to the rear end, okay? Valve, okay, let me show you. This valve and this arm we attached, right? We attached it with these nuts that go on here. And this is what actually stops the air. So when it reaches a certain height and the airbags reach a certain height, this arm right here lowers, it stops the valve and it stops airflow from continuing to fill up the bags. Okay, so whenever I lower it, it's going to lower it, it's going to raise up. Right? So if you ever have problems where you have an issue, you're on the side of the road, if you ever have problems where you're on the side of the road, you're anywhere you might be and you're losing air, what are we going to do? First thing we're going to do, we're going to find out where that air is leaking at, obviously. If it happens to be from one of your air springs, do not freak out, okay? We can go ahead and we can stop the air supply in the rear end. And it's going to be a shitty ride wherever you need to get to. You already know that. Hopefully you don't have far and you can get to a service station as quickly as possible if you don't have air springs on hand. And if you don't, I would suggest starting to collect parts. Okay? If this would have been a situation where I were stranded on the side of the road and I did not have these parts, which I did not have, it would have been potentially several $1,000s worth of roadside bill. Okay? This is a very expensive sport, so as we know, we have to be smart. And that's really all there is to it. Alright, so we hooked up, we're ready to go, and we're gonna rock and roll in the morning, okay? We'll do another video on the inverter that I got from Harbor Freight, 5,000 watts, 2-watt wire, pipe bender. Wow, that's a whole nother issue right there. We'll talk about it. We got it done. Works good. Coffee, microwave, everything you can imagine all at once. I'm not even drawing 2,500 watts. Do you really need 5,000? No. Is it going to burn up your battery? Is it going to hurt you? No. We'll talk about that again, but in short, you're only going to draw as much power as you need. Okay. Definitely don't leave it on. Obviously, if your truck's not going to be running for more than an hour, or you will drain all your batteries. And then I'll have to teach you how to jump the truck off with a car.
I know. They're so happy. It's so happy to see me. Huh? What, Dad? Bad.